As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
So, is it not apostate-driven lies? So you actually do have pedophiles in your organization? Oh, you actually have let the accused run free in your organization if there was no other witness? Oh, you actually didn't call the police when you should have. So it's not just apostate-driven lies. Oh, so you actually got to apologize to all these victims and compensate them as well? Well, what brought about this change? You were asked to join the redress scheme over and over, and you refused. You see, this redress scheme is a follow-up to the Australian Royal Commission. You know, when they were looking to see how well you protected children, and you were found to be one of the worst organizations when it comes to protecting children. So now, you've been asked to be a part of this redress scheme, and you didn't want to do it. You felt like, you know what I'm saying, you were just going to thug it out, you know. You felt like the Australian Royal Commission, they didn't really know what they was talking about. You know, you told them, you know, you don't really believe this is God's organization anyway. You know, just totally selling us out. You know what I'm saying? You're not courageous at all. Like the titles of the books you print, you publish, Be Courageous. You're nothing like the men you describe in those books. You're nothing like them. What about Meshach, and Abednego? Is that how you say their names? It's been a long time. But yeah, you're nothing like these courageous men that stood up for God, that stood up for Jehovah in times when their faith was tested. So no, you just wanted to thug it, right? You just wanted to thug it like, well, I ain't got no problem over here. Yeah, they say we the worst religion when it comes to protecting kids, but no, we ain't issue out no apologies. If they make us pay, the court make us pay, then we just gotta pay. But we ain't joining no redress scheme. Oh no, not until they tell you they're gonna take your tax exempt status. Oh, that's why you folding? That's why you bending? Because you don't want them to take that tax exempt status, do you? So now you're going to have to pay out all these victims because it wasn't apostate lies. You really do have victims of abuse in your organization that you've allowed to be abused on your watch, okay? So it's time to pay up. And this is what's happening now. What's funny, my mom used to always tell me every time, she didn't want to hear about the history. She didn't want me to bring up quotes leading up to 1975. Look, Mom, look what they said leading up to 1975. So they were predicting the end of the world. What about these 1914 quotes? They said the world was going to end. What about this? It will no longer, what? Y'all know what I'm talking about. This generation will by no means pass away. The 1914 generation. What else? She don't want to hear about the articles that came out telling young people not to pursue a college career. She didn't want to hear about none of that. She would say, you always bringing up Watchtower's history, Watchtower's past. What about what's happening right now? What's happening right now? What's happening right now? Your organization is joining the redress scheme. And they're going to apologize to the victims that they let get molested and abused on their watch. But they're only going to do it because they had to be threatened that they would get their tax exempt status taken away from them. Now you let that sink in, all right?
And what's happening right now is your organization is joining the redress scheme, end quote. Shout out to Miss Felice over at Totally Awake XJW. I don't know her. I don't get paid by her. I just happened to see her video today. I had something something else planned for the opening monologue, and I saw that, and I want to give her a shout out. Make sure you guys check out her YouTube and her story. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JW Free Podcast. My name is James. I'm your host, and let me tell you something. There ain't nothing better than listening to the liar himself, themselves, tell the lie right out of their own lying mouth. And this right here is why part of my podcast is talking about toxic personalities, whatever the label is, right? Because one of the main foundational pieces of any toxic person is they're always lying. Even if they know they're lying, they will still tell that lie and sound smoother and slicker than a can of oil. You hear what I'm saying? So let's talk about what brought me to this topic today. I've been listening off and on for the last several days to different videos and articles about why the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses joined this redress scheme. And the word that they're trying to put out is that this is a law. Now, nowhere did I read in any of this stuff that this is an actual law. This is why I played this video for you guys in the beginning. The reason they're having to join this redress scheme is because they're going to take away their charitable status. Money, dividends, bills, dollar bill, y'all. Shout out to Wu-Tang. Money. Nowhere have I seen that this is a law. It is not a law. And the point I'm making is this is yet another way they're plotting, they're planning, they're scheming to hold their name. This is their PR job. So that the rank and file that are remaining don't finally say, you know what, enough is enough. We got to walk out. Listen to the word I just used, current Jehovah's Witnesses. They are still in planning mode. Planning, something they forbid you to do. So they're still trying to figure out, but tell you guys that it is now the law. And I saw Tony Tight Pants, the drunk Morris. I saw him using Bible scripture to back up this lie within another lie on top of a lifetime of lies. Do y'all hear me? You think I'm lying to you? There's a lot of lies going on today. Check this out.
Romans 13, verses 1 and 2. We must listen to the governmental superior authorities who are permitted by Jehovah to care for certain functions. The importance of listening to these authorities is emphasized in verse 2, where it says, whoever opposes the authority, or according to the footnote, whoever resists the authority, has taken a stand against the arrangement of God. We know that these authorities exist by God's permission, and it's His will that Christians be subject to them as long as what they require doesn't conflict with His law. News reports are filled with stories of people ignoring the direction from the authorities or even protesting against it. But rebelling against secular authorities constitutes a rebellion against God.
There are two subtle insinuations here. Well, maybe not so subtle, the first one. But the first one is obviously we're being forced to do this and we need to comply because of God's word, the Bible, right? They're using that Bible because, in all of Christianity, this is the other hold. In addition to the belief system, the Bible is another anchor that holds these people to this belief. And this is how you get them to get on board with what you're saying. Okay? There is no law. There is no law that says they have to join this. It was all about, if you don't join, we're going to take your tax status. Okay? So they're insinuating they're being forced by the law, according to the law, to do this. Lie number one. The second insinuation is that we're being forced to do this even though we've done nothing wrong. This is also a lie, okay? Because we know that they've been hiding, doing the best they can to not only hide, the bad actors, in the organization, but they've also been, hiding their money overseas. Do you get me? The point I'm making is, how many lies can you tell before you can't remember them all, right? And you know what happens when the Jehovah's Witnesses can't remember or keep up with all their lives? The organization itself, they have to bring out some new light. They have to change the story, okay? But the reason, again, that I play that audio for you is because we have him saying we're the first ones to look after our babies. When in reality, Felice told y'all you guys had chance after chance after chance and even had a deadline and let it pass. And you still didn't do the right thing. You've been lying in court. They were fining you $4,000 a day for you to turn over that list of known men who are harming children. You wouldn't turn that over. Okay? So it is not true that you are doing the right thing for these kids. What you are doing is the right thing for the organization, this billion-dollar empire. What this does is it ultimately, finally makes them admit that there was a problem. No matter how they try to get around it, this is a non-verbal admission. And to me, when I look at the communications from them, whether it's on their talks or their writings or their press release, it's almost like watching a kid, forcing a kid to do a chore they don't want to do. That's what this looks like when you listen to them. It's like, we're going to do it, but we don't really want to, and have an attitude and have the mouth stuck out. That's what my mom used to say, pull your lips in, because I'm pouting. This is what this feels like. And it's a doggone shame. It's a shame that the remaining people still don't see it. This is one more thing that they've lied about. In addition to, this whole global thing we've been going through over the last year. What did they tell you guys about that? Yeah, these are the final days and this is it. This is the time. Everything's opening back up, governing body. What are you going to tell the people now? It's important for current Jehovah's Witnesses for us to plant the seed with you, but it's even more important that people who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses are listening to not just me, but all of us who are doing what we're doing, so they'll know when these people, when they come across them in public and they pass their stands and they see their kingdom halls, that they know and have provable, tangible evidence of what is going on inside their publications and their kingdom halls. Now let's talk about something that hasn't been talked about but is just as important, because all this really is, all this hype about them joining was really just a statement that they made. Up until now, there hasn't been any action. Okay? And I'm going to read to you an article from MSN.com, and it's very simple, Jehovah's Witnesses to join a redress scheme. And the following quote is going to come from their social services minister, Ann Rustin. I'm not sure which way is the correct way, so forgive me, Ann, but let me read her quote to you. Quote, "We encourage them to make urgent contact with the Department of Social Services so they can make good on this commitment," she told AAP. "It can take up to 6 months for institutions to complete the process of joining, and the department would hope to work cooperatively with haste to facilitate the Jehovah's Witnesses joining as quickly as possible." End quote. AKA, they still have time to make a full commitment or start the act of actually making the commitment to this organization. So they haven't done anything yet. And the following statement is just going to be conjecture, right? But I'm almost willing to bet that they are going to continue to do everything in their power not to make that final, tangible, to have a commitment on record. I'm willing to bet they are. And why wouldn't they if they've gone this long, the last, what has been a couple of years now, a few years of them having this battle of being forced to join this redress scheme? They drag their feet. And they're going to continue to do that, in my opinion, during this next 6 months that they have to finally commit on record. And this is another, it may not seem like much to current Jehovah's Witnesses, but this is just another level of their planning for success by their measure. Planning. I'm going to keep stressing this to you simply because we were taught, or you're still being taught, not to plan for the future. They are planning for the next 6 months, I'm sure, and I could be wrong, to not join this thing. How do we get out of it? How much can we pay? You guys know how I go. There's no more room for us to pretend that we don't know how stuff works, okay? We know that at that level, there's a lot of back scratching going on, you know what I mean? And so for them to finally have to commit to this is going to be on record, it is going to show the last remaining group, it's done. And it may not make a difference to them, to the last few Jehovah's Witnesses, because quite frankly, those who are in right now are people who are probably going to stay in. So it may not make a difference to them, but it does make a difference to the rest of the world, so that you guys know that this is what's happening. Those